Welcome to the Gloves Up podcast presented by the Kansas City Golden Gloves. My name is Cam F. Awesome, and I am your host for right now as we figure out what this podcast is going to be. But before we get into it, I'd like to even explain what the Kansas City Golden Gloves is and what Golden Gloves means. I've won a lot of tournaments, and I tell people what I've won, but the only thing that really matters in their eyes is the Golden Gloves. And it's such a prestigious tournament, and as winner of a 4-time National Golden Gloves Flex champion, I wanted to take time to explain what the Kansas City Golden Gloves was and is, and I do that with President Chris Walden.
Thank you, Cam. I'm happy to be here and honored to be here with you, 3-time Olympic trials champion Cam F. Awesome and KC Golden Gloves champion. So very honored to be here, and thank you for your support, as always. KC Golden Gloves is an organization that supports amateur boxing gyms in the Kansas City area and beyond. Our region stretches from Springfield and then west to Topeka, north to the Nebraska border, and south to Joplin. So that's the KC Golden Gloves region. And
How many regions are there?
There's 30 regions across the country.
Okay.
And so
basically, when the winner of the Kansas City Golden Gloves goes to nationals, and the winner of each weight class goes down, male and female?
Male and female now, yes. And so the Golden Gloves National Championships is the toughest tournament to win all year. And it's a 32-man bracket because there's 30 franchises. So you potentially, as you know, will have to win 5 nights in a row. Everybody you beat will be a champion. So there'll be a regional champion. So every time you step in the ring, you're stepping in the ring against a champion. Kansas City is a small franchise. The state of Texas is one Golden Gloves franchise. The state of California is one Golden Gloves franchise. Florida is one franchise. So as you know, in 2017, when Kansas City won its one and only national championship in our 89 years, our team beat each of those states on the way to that championship. So we're very proud of that.
Shout out to that team. I was a part of that team.
Yes, you were.
That was a cool.
You clinched it. You clinched it.
We all did as a team. So, what are the ages people can get involved in bringing their kids into the boxing gym? Because there are pictures I see out there of kids with gloves on, and they look like they're so tiny.
Yeah. Those are great bouts. There's a division called Pee Wee, but every USA or every KC Golden Gloves gym that we support, every event we support, is sanctioned by USA Boxing. So USA Boxing is an NGB, or national governing body, for the USOPC, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So just like USA Swimming, USA Basketball, USA Soccer, USA Boxing is an NGB. So they're the sanctioning organization for all of our events. To box in a USA Boxing sanctioned event, you have to be 8 years old, and you can be up to age 75. There's a master's division over age 40. Our national team, our Olympic team, will be between the ages of 19 and 40.
Oh, okay.
So all ages, all genders, and there's all sorts of different divisions, and there's different experience levels. So there's a place for everybody who wants to be a part of a sanctioned amateur boxing event.
Yeah, I get people who reach out to me on Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, I'm 28. Is it too late for me?" I'm like, "No." I see 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds who have their first boxing match, and I see children who are 8, 9 years old having their first fights, which I think is so cool. I wish I would have started that early. So how does one get involved in the Kansas City Golden Gloves as a fighter? Like how do I win the Golden Gloves?
So typically you'll if you've never boxed before, you go to our website, you'll find a gym that's near your area. We support about 15, 18 gyms in the KC area. And you'll contact that coach and maybe interview a couple of coaches and say, how does your gym work? And then you're going to start training. And for most gyms, for most coaches, you're not going to step in a boxing ring until you've trained for at least 6 months. So safety, obviously, in a youth sport that's a combat sport. is primary concern for officials and coaches alike. So if you want to reach that ultimate goal of winning the Kansas City Golden Gloves or going and winning a national Golden Gloves title like you did, then you have to be at least 18 years old, and you have to win the regional, and then you can go on and win the national championship.
Okay, so I want to join a gym in the area. How do I go about finding a gym?
So you go to kcgoldengloves.com, and there's a list of clubs, and the clubs have contact info for the coaches. And I would interview a coach or go to a couple gyms, visit them, and see what their program's all about. And then,
cool.
Yeah, there's always, people can contact anybody that's involved in boxing, and they can kind of give them some tips on which gyms might be a good fit.
Cool. Another question I have, because a lot of people, I purposely always had a thumbs up after every fight and was always smiling because I wanted to show that you can be a boxer without being this angry, violent person. And people see movies like Rocky and they think the more you get punched, the stronger you get, and they don't want to get their child involved in the sport.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's a big misconception, and I understand it. It's a combat sport, and it's boxing. But right off the bat, our boxers are going to wear oversized gloves. At a weight below 139 pounds, they'll wear 10-ounce gloves, and pros would wear 8s. And then above 139 pounds, they're going to wear 12-ounce gloves. And boxers are wearing headgear at every event in the United States. So safety is a primary concern if you're a parent. USA Boxing last year had less concussions than USA Soccer. So I have a daughter that plays soccer. It seems like it's a less violent sport, but not according to the numbers. In addition to that, an amateur boxing bout is 3 rounds, and it can be at most 3 minutes. So it's not 8, 10, 12 rounds, it's 3 rounds. So the chances of you getting repeated punishment over the course of 10 or 12 rounds, that can't happen. So 3 rounds of 3 minutes or less. Safety is the primary concern of coaches and officials in a boxing match. So the referee's main job is if this boxer's taking too much punishment, then they're going to stop the bout so they can wake up the next morning and train again and box another day.
I don't have kids, but if I did, I'd let them box. I guess you become a fighter, you start going to the gym, I'll tell what I did. I ended up going to the gym. You learn the boxing moves. You start to shadow box. You eventually, when you learn defense, you start to spar. You get good at sparring. You start to have your first fight. And during your first fight, you'll fight someone who has 0 fights or maybe 1 fight. They're at your experience level. So you never have to fight someone who's like super experienced. You choose your fighters when you first start off.
Yeah. So for parents and boxers alike, your match will be made with a boxer that's of similar weight, similar age, and similar experience. So you wouldn't be put in a bout if you're making your debut. You would not be boxing somebody with 8 or 10 or 12 bouts.
What's the difference between a novice fighter and an open fighter?
So those terms really don't exist in our rule book anymore, but a novice fighter is going to be new. And the cutoff used to be 10 bouts or less was novice and more than 10 was open. So that's how we would classify boxers. A novice boxer couldn't box an open boxer. So it's a little bit different now, but the spirit of those terms and that rule is you do not want mismatches.
Yeah, that's for the safety of the sport. That's cool. The name of our podcast, Gloves Up Podcast, presented by the Kansas City Golden Gloves. Do you want to break down the name, the Kansas City Golden Gloves?
Yes. So, about 7-8 years ago, we kind of rebranded the organization, and our name was the Greater Kansas City Golden Gloves Association Incorporated.
That's not catchy.
Which, nobody's going to say that. So, and our logo was like 5 oven mitts is what they look like next to each other. And so we came up with this blue glove that you helped design that's over your left shoulder with the American flag. That's been our logo ever since. And we kind of shortened our name to KC Golden Gloves. So maybe people might say it more frequently. But that was just part of a kind of a rebirth of Golden Gloves. This organization's been around. Our tournament in April will be our 89th tournament. So we've been around 89 years. Lots of iterations of this organization. But we kind of started with a new vision and a new mission to support amateur boxing gyms in every way. And we kind of rebranded with new colors and new logo and kind of a new name.
Cool. So I have my first few fights. I'm no longer a novice fighter. I have some experience now. I start to fight open fighters. Now I go to where do I go to after? I'm trying to get to nationals. I go to Golden Glove states.
Yeah, if your area has a state tournament, you'd have to qualify at the state tournament. We have a regional tournament only because we have a pretty small region. So our regional tournament is open to every boxer with 10 bouts or more in their weight class. So you compete at the regional tournament. If you win that tournament, you go on to the national tournament.
I make it to nationals. Congratulations to me. So I make it to nationals. I get there. I'm at the heavyweight weight class, and there are 30 other regions. Or 29 other regions. So I have 29 other heavyweights I have to fight to get to to win the tournament. And sometimes at my weight class, weirdly, it wasn't always a full bracket for me. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I got buys. I've won that tournament with fighting usually it's only like 4 times. But when you fight 4 or 5 days in a row, the first day is no problem. Second day is no problem. But the third day, you start to feel the soreness from the first day.
Yeah.
And by the fourth day, you start to feel the soreness by the first and second day. And if you fight a 5th or 6th days, which a lot of those smaller weight classes have to fight.
Sure. Yeah, it's there's 2 tournaments to me that you really know by the end of the week who the true champion is. And the toughest tournaments in America are the Olympic trials, which is the 8 best boxers in the country. That only happens every 4 years. And then the Golden Gloves National Championships. And so you're going to win potentially 5 nights in a row, and everybody you beat is going to be a champion. And you can see by the time, you're cutting weight, you have to make weight every day, which is challenging for folks.
Discipline.
Takes discipline. And at the end of the week, you can tell those boys and girls have been in a fight all week long. And so you really see Friday night and Saturday night with the semifinals and finals, you see heart. And but yeah, everybody wants to be a Golden Gloves national champion. Sugar Ray Robinson was.
You get a cool ring. It's like a Super Bowl ring with your weight class on it, your name, and the city you won it in.
Yeah, nice big belt. I mean, it's quite an honor. Muhammad Ali was a Golden Gloves champ. Sugar Ray Leonard was a Golden Gloves champ. Mike Tyson was a Golden Gloves champ. The list goes on and on. Cam Awesome was a Golden Gloves champ.
Please stress the F.
So yeah, I mean, it's those boxers have been in a battle all week long, and it's there's also the Golden Boy Award. That's the outstanding boxer.
Never got it.
So
never got it.
Came close, right?
Close, not good enough.
So yeah, that's the Golden Gloves, and it's quite an honor to win it. We've had our past champions in Kansas City include you. They include, Greg Suttington was a past champion. B.J. Flores was a past champion.
Marcus Davidson, Marcel Davidson.
Recently, Marcel Davidson was a national champion. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So some of the lessons that I believe you learn from becoming a boxer is actually, I'll ask you, what are some lessons you believe that you learned from becoming not a fighter, but a boxer?
So, I'm not a coach, so I don't get to see that part of it. But what I do see is I see people who kind of come in the gym and they might be troubled kids. A lot of people have a story where boxing kind of, rescued them. And that's very common. And I have seen boxers, they come in the gym, they're not disciplined, they're causing trouble. 3 or 4 years later, they're not getting in trouble at school. Our boxers, they don't get in trouble. They don't fight at school. I think they have the self-confidence not to.
Once you learn how to fight, you realize you don't have to.
You don't have to, yeah. So, and then, Marcus Davidson is a good example. He was kind of running around shows out of control when he was a little guy, and then by the end, he's coaching other boxers, mentoring other boxers. He's just an outstanding young man. Yeah. So, Cam, about about 5% maybe of our boxers will have the experience that you've had, where they are make an Olympic team, or they'll go pro. We have a lot of really good pro boxers right now. That's probably about 5% that will do that. The rest of them, they're getting the experience of amateur boxing, and they're turning into outstanding young men and women. So boxing is an exciting sport, but really, for the most part, what our coaches are doing is they're kind of in the youth development business. So
I like that as a youth development business. So you shared that you don't have experience boxing, but boxing is a very popular sport, and a lot of people connect with the sport and might want to be involved in the sport. How would one go about becoming involved in the Kansas City Golden Gloves, or any Golden Gloves in general?
So, we're an all-volunteer nonprofit. So, we'll kind of take anybody and put them to work. You could be an assistant coach. You could box if you want. You mentioned at any age you can box. I sparred, and it was really hard. And when I sparred, I was blocking all the punches with my head. So I thought, you know what, you need to be an official. So I was started to become a pretty good official. I didn't know that. So there's ways you can get involved. We need volunteers for our tournament, but you can be a board member, you can be an official, you can be a coach. It's pretty easy to be a coach. And when you get to be a coach, you're going to be an assistant coach. You might be doing things like, helping with, holding a bag or helping with water at first. And our coaches will train you. We have excellent
no experience
coaches.
necessary.
No experience necessary. Yeah, they'll train you up. The same with officials. So to be an official,
Could you tell me, if I wanted to be involved in the sport, but I don't want to be in the gym, maybe I just want to have the best seats at the house as a judge.
Yeah.
How would I go about doing that?
So, our officials are, first of all, whether you're an assistant coach, an official, anybody that's in our field of play around our athletes, you have to be registered with USA Boxing, which means you pay a registration fee, you pass a background check, so parents can feel good that the people that are around our athletes, our youth athletes, have passed a background check. They've taken required training called Safe Sport, which is online training through the USOPC that has to deal with youth safety. And then you attend a clinic, a 4 to 6 hour clinic. You take a test. There's ongoing testing, and then you start practice judging. So you'll sit next to a live judge. I used to sit next to Tony Cheverini when I was judging, and I would see after each round, how did you see it? How did I see it? That sort of thing. So you start practicing, and then when the chief says you're good to go live, then you go live. And
live means actual boxing matches, and you are a part of the process for the fight. I've won all these fights, and I've been all these places, and I realized that I couldn't have done any of that without the judges or the officials who take their week off work, volunteer, and have to make those decisions. And sometimes it's close fights, and there's a lot of emotions involved, and I'm really grateful for those officials. Another thing I'm grateful for, and I'd like for you to speak on it, there are scholarship opportunities through the Golden Gloves.
Sure.
And I'm realizing there are more scholarships than applicants. I would like more applicants. Can we talk a little bit about how you can become a recipient of the Kansas City Golden Glove Scholarship?
Yeah, so we have a scholarship application, and it can be for junior college, technical school, 4-year university. You just have to reach out, fill out the application, and we like giving out scholarships. And we've had a couple scholarship recipients in the past that are now assistant coaches. So they feel like they're going to give back to the sport, much like you feel like you're giving back to the sport because we may have supported you.
Golden Gloves have supported me. Yeah, my technical school.
Every time we have a scholarship recipient, I look at that as an investment in somebody that's going to be giving back to our sport at some point in the future, and that's been true.
That's why I will always be back to support the Kansas City Golden Gloves and all Golden Gloves in general, because of course I put in the work, and I ran and I sparred and I slipped punches, but the infrastructure was there for me to be able to travel all over the world. Yeah. And Golden Gloves is a major part of that for me. So any way I can give back, I'm always around. And I love that we have the opportunity for scholarships, because maybe not everyone can get a scholarship in football or basketball. It's a lot more competitive, but there's a space where you can learn discipline, you can learn personal accountability, you build a new community around you, you gain confidence, and you can also get a scholarship.
Yeah. It's good all around.
Yeah. So we have a Golden Gloves tournament coming up. It is the longest running sporting event in Kansas City history. How many years?
89 years this April. So the Golden Gloves Regional Championships is April 4th to 6th at Memorial Hall in KCK. And we'll start with Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Saturday night will be the finals. And then, our champions then will go on to Detroit in May to represent Kansas City at the National Golden Gloves Tournament. So, and our tournament is our national tournament team. They look great. They have customized uniforms, trunks and jerseys, customized backpacks or duffel bags, jackets, warm-up gear. We treat them great. It's a good experience for these young men and women, and in some cases it might be the first time some of these young men or women have been on an airplane. So it's a really good experience for them.
The Kansas City Golden Gloves always treated us first class when we traveled as a team, so that's always great. But it takes funds to do that. It takes help to do that. How can one go about helping support the Kansas City Golden Gloves?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, and there's information about how to become a boxer or coach or an official. You can go to our social media, which is at KC Gloves on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And I'll be linked somewhere.
Yeah. Oh. And then, we appreciate donations. Buy a ticket, buy a table, buy an ad. We have a video board you can put ads on for our tournament. So, we appreciate the support. All the... we're an all-volunteer nonprofit, so you're here as a volunteer, so am I. And
wait, I'm not getting...
and so, but I'm proud of that, and we run a pretty good professional organization, and what we do with our funds is we support boxers and coaches. We support boxers with scholarships. We support coaches by offering some coaches training. We reimburse coaches for their club registration fee, which is an insurance fee. We will reimburse coaches to hold an event. So there's a sanction fee through USA Boxing to hold an event, and we'll reimburse that to incent coaches to provide competition. We help train officials. We will pay for officials' travel. We'll pay for some boxer and coaches' travel. We'll pay for officials' registration fees. So we've really tried to take our recent success with our tournament and turn that back over to boxers and coaches and officials to grow the sport further. And we've been really successful with that.
Reinvesting into the fighters. I always hear that we're not hearing about boxing where we used to hear about boxing. No one's really supporting boxing. You have an opportunity to give back and become a part of the Kansas City Golden Glove boxing community. And you can do that by volunteering, by bringing your kid in, by becoming a fighter yourself, being a judge, an official, a spectator, buy a ticket, be a sponsor, share the podcast.
All those things.
All those things. All those things can be done. Why? So you're the president of the Kansas City Golden Gloves.
Yes, I drew the short straw several years ago. And so, yes, I am.
What are some of your roles and duties as president, Mr. President?
So, we have a really good active board of directors now. So we put on a few events during the year. We do an event in the spring with Hope House, which we just wrapped up. And then we'll do our regional tournament, which is a huge undertaking. And then we'll do another event with the KC Irish Center in, I think this year it will be in August 3rd.
So we had a great event at the Hope House. Can you tell me a little bit more about it and how it looked?
Yeah, so this is the second year we've done it, and we partner with Hope House, Kansas City, which is domestic violence support organization, and with Christy Martin, who, as you know, is a world-famous former world champion, first female boxer ever on the cover of Sports Illustrated, She has a great story, a great Netflix special if you want to see it. Just a wonderful story that involves domestic violence. So this partnership, our kind of shared goal of using boxing to kind of highlight domestic violence, and since women in boxing is so important now and prominent, it just turned out to be a really good fit. But we had a great event, had about 10 bouts. It's at the Uptown Theater, so we're trying to do events where our boxers will have the opportunity to do something special. And as you know, most boxing gyms are dark, and they have a bucket to catch the rain when it's raining, and their light bulbs are burnt out, and the bags are taped with duct tape. And so if we can have an event where there's lights and smoke and music, the boxers love it. And, they deserve it. If you step into a boxing gym and you've trained that hard and you're in there, with the courage to be in there by yourself in an individual sport, in a combat sport where somebody's trying to beat you, then, you deserve some accolades. So we try and make it special for the boxers for these other events.
I did love anytime I fought in a special venue, something nice with the lights, the smoke, the cameras. You feel, even though it's the same fight, you feel like it's a different experience. And on top of that, the Kansas City Golden Gloves are great with awards. So not only do you win, even when you lose, you get a great award, which we'll talk about that. But you win awards, and a child or a fighter can look at that as a reminder of what they can achieve in life. So I'm a big fan of all of the awards that the KC Golden Gloves gives out.
Yeah, thank you. We put money into that because we think it's so important. And, we say there's no loser in a boxing match. There's a winner and there's a runner-up. And if you've trained that hard to step into the ring and you've competed, then, I agree. There's no real loser.
There's no real loser. Kinda. I stand for what the Kansas City Golden Gloves stands for. I do.
Good answer.
Keep me on the board. Keep me on the board. I enjoy being a part of. I enjoy having been a fighter and experienced all these things, and being able to be on the board of directors and make decisions to help these young boxers, not fighters, boxers, become the best people that they can be. Whether that's turning pro to become a professional boxer, or using the scholarship from being a boxer to have a career for after sports, or just learning the discipline, or being healthy, or learning how to defend yourself.
Yeah.
I see so many great benefits of the Golden Gloves, but I don't think enough people know about it.
It's almost like everybody involved in boxing has a personal testimony, and they're all just amazing. They're what you said. The former KCK chief of police, we're talking one day, he said, I walked in a boxing gym because I was getting picked on. I wanted to learn to defend myself. I'm like, really? I've heard that so many times. A federal judge that came to one of our officials' clinics, he said, I was in the Northeast area and I was getting picked on. I walked into a boxing gym. And they don't learn to fight. They learn to self-respect and not to fight. And so, that story is just over and over. So that's why I think a lot of our coaches, they go through the sport and they want to give that same experience to somebody else. That's why they're so giving of their time. I've never met a coach who's making any money running a boxing gym.
Yeah, neither have I. It's not a great business model, but
the first question, if you want to be a coach, is, are you a sucker? Okay, if you answer no, then you're in the wrong place. So, but yeah, they do it because it's very simply in their blood. So, and a lot of officials get that way too. Officials make a huge sacrifice to be really, really good, which becomes really, really important, because the worst outcome you can have is a boxer training hard for months, getting in the ring, and then getting a bad decision, which unfortunately happens. But
part of the game. And the thing is, it's still a subjective scoring system.
Yes.
And in boxing, I realized I had to fight a certain way in order to capitalize on that scoring system. I'm not a knockout artist, to say the least. So I understood I had to use points. And some people would say, never leave it in the judge's hands. I'm like, it's not as easy as you think. People who knock people out are special. I wasn't one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an exciting sport for sure.
And there are different levels of judging. Can you briefly explain the different levels of judges?
Yeah, there's there's 3 levels. There's a level 1, 2, and 3 of judging, and you start out at a level 1, and once you do that for 2 years, and then you can move to a level 2, then you can move to a level 3 if you attend national tournaments, and after another 2 years, and you have to certain levels you have to make for testing. And what we do now is we evaluate all of our officials, so they're evaluated based on reffing and judging, and every time you judge a bout, you're evaluated on every round and every bout and the result. So, and then you're ranked after that. So based on testing, reffing, judging. So we've kind of made it a competition to say, who are our best officials across the country? And so, and there's pride in that. And as you know, when you get people competing, you get a better outcome. So we've improved the officiating across the country just by putting some more training and education in place and having people being evaluated and compete against each other. So.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that we're not just throwing judges in there and they're just kind of like, I like that boxer more. There's like a strenuous process that they have to go through, and even a lot of fighters don't even know that. Yeah,
there's a lot of training that goes into it, and so most good officials can quote the scoring criteria, and have been trained with hundreds, if not thousands, of bouts to judge correctly what they're seeing. So, if you become a judge with KC Golden Gloves, you're potentially going to choose our Olympic team. And so, we want to make sure that we start you on the right path to get to that level where you're making a life-changing decision for a young man or a young woman.
I love that. So, again, volunteer, be a coach, be a judge, be an official, be a fighter, be a supporter.
And I can tell you that people you're around are going to be good quality people. If you want to be around people who are giving, who have decided they're doing something they love and they want to give back, that's most of the people in this sport.
I'm running into a lot of people who have been telling me they haven't been saying these words, but they kind of lack community. And since the pandemic has happened, a lot of people realize they have more free time, or the thing that they used to do, they don't do anymore. So if you're looking for something to add to your life or a new community to be in, a great way to be involved is the Kansas City Golden Gloves.
Yeah, I agree. You'll get, as you said earlier, a ringside seat to some incredible action.
Best seat in the house.
Best seat in the house. You'll be around, people like Tony Schiavorini. I mean, I was starstruck when I came into boxing, and I was sitting next to Tony judging a fight. I was like, there's Tony. First of all, don't mess with him. Second of all, let him help you. But no, it's
Tony's a man, by the way. A lot of people may not know who Tony Schiavorini is because he's a little bit older, so the younger generation doesn't know. But you want to explain who Tony is?
Yeah, so Tony Schiavorini was, back in the 70s, 80s, a multi-KC Golden Gloves champion, but he was ranked 3rd in the world, and this was before they had,
camera phones?
Yeah, camera phones, yes. And before they had 7 or 8 sanctioning bodies. So Tony was ranked 3rd. He fought Sugar Ray Leonard at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Howard Cosell was on the mic. And it was on Wide World of Sports. So Tony is I refer to him as the KC boxing legend, which he does not like, but he's really a legend. And for a certain generation of folks, Tony was a franchise, like George Brett was a franchise back in the day. So, and he's a wonderful person to be around young boxers. He's a great example of a gentleman.
Tony's a man. And he will be an eventual guest on this podcast. Can you share some of the other guests we can be expecting? Yeah,
so I think first is going to be our first pro boxer spotlight will be Eric Priest, who's in L.A., very successful.
Killing it,
yes. And on deck is going to be Isaac Carlos, if he's available. He'll make his pro debut here in May in Kansas City.
He's turning pro?
He is turning pro.
Oh, nice.
Little Isaac.
Little Isaac ain't little no more.
Not anymore.
That's the cool thing about the organization. You can watch these young fighters grow up to be like men.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have Marco Romero on, who's a very successful amateur boxer, multinational champion. Kansas City has a lot of boxing tradition with people like Tony Schiavorini. We also have a lot of multi-time national champions. So boxing is... We're doing really well. We're competing well at national tournaments. Some of these boxers are younger. They're not quite Golden Gloves age yet, but we have a lot of upcoming champions, male and female. So we're excited to have those folks on so we can learn more about what they went through in their training to become a national champion.
Great. I'm looking forward to all of these episodes. And again, I am your host, Cam F. Awesome, and this is the Gloves Up podcast presented by the Kansas City Golden Gloves.